Road Rally. Made by Carlo A. Rossi and published by Mayfair Games, Road Rally is a racing game. Now that might not sound like an exciting board game concept if you heard that and thought of something like, I don't know, Candyland. But thankfully the game is actually not about getting to the finish line, if really at all. Here's how it goes down. Each player has a color-coded car, and these cars are moved by playing cards that have numbers on them. And these cards you actually get from your own deck. In addition to numbers, these cards have colors. You can only play cards of the same color, and these colors tell you how many cards you can draw after playing them. 2 for green, 1 for yellow, 0 for red. This helps control your hand size, because once you're out of cards, you're out of gas, and you have to skip a turn. Winning the game is based on points, and points are scored at the end of every round every time certain spots on the board are reached by a player. Some of these are scoring tiles. Every player has 4 unrevealed scoring tile cards that are used when one of them matches a scoring tile that was just reached by a player. If they do score it, then everybody, not just the player with the card, scores points based on what place they are in the race, with higher places scoring more points, and last place drawing 2 more road cards instead if they like to. The owner of the tile, however, scores double, no matter what place they are. If you're in a sucky position, don't say anything and don't score the tile, and no one scores any points. Because of this scoring system, winning basically has nothing to do with getting across the finish line first, but rather staying in a good spot consistently throughout the race. That said, there are some checkpoints that are only awarded to the first player that reaches them, and they don't have to wait until the end of the round to score those either. There are some special squares that do different game effects, like shuffling your discard pile back into your deck so that you don't run out of gas, or even playing more than one color at the same time. We'll get to those if we encounter any. The one thing the finish line does do is actually end the game. Once one person crosses it, everyone has one more turn to do anything about their points, and then it's game over. Most points wins.
Here at boarding school, we want to take a look at the core concepts of gaming. These include, but are not limited to, complexity, interaction, resource management, replayability, and the ability to come back when you're behind. Road Rally isn't what I would call a complex game. There are 2 major decisions you make. One is managing your resource, which is your movement cards. Managing this resource means, do you want to drop your whole hand, or do you want to go baby steps throughout the game? The major decision, of course, is whether or not to score. Because all players get points when you score, you're also managing your opponent's point totals, because the game depends on points and not on who goes first to the finish line. You're at deciding whether or not you want to give other players more points, especially if you're behind, at which point you might not want to score. Of course, because of this, about 3/4 of the way through the game, it becomes clear which players have a chance of winning and which ones don't, and that gives the people at the end of the race, or on the lower end of the point totals, they just go through the motions for the remainder of the game. Road Rally, due to the limited amount of interaction, which is the ability to hinder or aid other players, because of the limited interaction available in the game, which the interaction here being the ability to score or choose not to score, it falls more on the solitary end of the spectrum.
What do we think about the game? I'm not as much of a strategy guy, that's more his thing. But I am the flavor guy, and this game has a lot of it. I mean, they squeezed a lot of art into every single tile. I mean, they got like a plane flying over the fields in one of them. They got the coast on the finish line. I mean, it really gets me into the zone of thinking like I'm actually racing across an interesting landscape. Now, they touch upon the gameplay at least a little bit though. Like I said earlier, it's not about just getting to the finish line first. I mean, if it was, it'd be like I was just playing Candyland. I don't want to play Candyland. I actually want to play something that makes me think a little bit. And this game has something for that, you know? Nice and light, not too hard.
Yeah, in short, Road Rally is fun. Not particularly deep, but fun. It's a great game to play with your friends, it's easy to set up, quick to set up, and you get the game out in less than an hour. If you have any people in your play group who don't like the longer, more complex games, this is the game for them.